So ladies and gentlemen, if I were to ask you what is one of the most important things that you need to get right when it comes to making a movie? I mean, that's quite a broad question, I understand. I mean, to you, for Superman Legacy, for example, it might be, of course, finding the perfect Clark Kent, Lois Lane, nailing the aesthetic of the movie. Of course, you know, the suit, the Superman suit, there's going to be a lot of, you know, different opinions when it comes to that. But I would say that one of the biggest things that you need to nail with a movie that I don't think, I mean, people do think about it, but I don't think people give enough, you know, importance to, is absolutely the score and who's composing. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about in today's news roundup video, ladies and gentlemen, is the composer for Superman Legacy. So we're going to start off this video with a couple of stories that happened over the past few days that I need to catch up with, a few updates, getting into DCU Batman, some other DC updates, which I find very interesting with what Gunn is teasing, and several other things that I can't remember from the top of my head right now, but as you guys know, these videos are timestamped, so feel free to skip around if you want to. There's some juicy stuff throughout it, so I recommend watching a little bit. But let's talk about the composer for Superman Legacy. James Gunn here on Threads a few days ago saying, "Happy to announce that my frequent collaborator John Murphy is scoring Superman Legacy," of which I believe a lot of you did guess right. John was one of the first people I called when I finished the script many months ago, as I knew how incredibly important the score was to this production. John has been working tirelessly since, creating hours worth of music that we'll play on set and shoot to and use in the edit, and that will eventually be recorded with a glorious symphony. Amazing. A glorious symphony for all of you. Welcome to the DCU, John. So this is interesting because I've seen mixed responses online. I think unless you cast someone like Giacchino these days, or Hans Zimmer, or whoever else, some people are a bit like, am I feeling kind of underwhelmed, or, you know, what do I think? But then, to be honest, you honestly might be in the boat of, I've heard this stuff before. Obviously, there's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 recently, there's the Suicide Squad, and you might be thinking, you know, it's alright, but it's not really who I thought would be handling the Superman Legacy film, and fair enough. What I want to say, well, right out the gate, my impression is I'm not absolutely like blown away, but nor am I kind of underwhelmed. I'm just kind of like, okay, I do like the stuff John Murphy has done before, but one thing I will say is, what Gunn said here is the reason why this announcement has been made is because a deal would have been signed. And I believe when he was talking about it in the past, he said that the composer had been working on the score for a long time, but the deal was still being figured out, kind of thing. So what I want to say to those who may doubt the composer of Superman Legacy, his capability of, you know, maybe making the next best, for all we know, Superman theme and everything else that will go into that movie's tracks, I don't think James Gunn would have chosen John Murphy if he wasn't creating something good. Because as he said, until the deal was being figured out, he's been working tirelessly on figuring out what this sound would be. So James Gunn would have been privy to that the entire time, right? It kind of reminds me of the early talks that Matt Reeves was talking about with Michael Giacchino, and how he, you know, as soon as they started talking about it was only like a few days later when he sent him over the beginnings, dun, 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 like that initial vibe of the film, the Batman's score, right? And then obviously he would have, you know, built it from the ground up from there on out. So you have to kind of replicate that onto what James Gunn has experienced the past God knows how many months with John Murphy. Maybe there's this amazing sound that he's captured, and yeah, of course, whilst the contract or whatever has been figured out, and until most recently when the deal would have been signed so they could officially announce it, he's been hearing hours worth of music that, as he said, and I think this is amazing to do, especially if you're an actor on set, you get to play the score that's been worked out so far, even though they might be beta versions of it, if you know what I mean, and they still need to be fully recorded with a symphony. But, you know, you can hear that. Imagine being David Corenswet, being able to put the, you know, earbuds in and listen to what is basically going to be the theme. That would really help you get in the mood. So yeah, all I'm saying is, do you really think Gunn would have finally chose to sign off on this guy if he hadn't heard what could be hopefully the next best Superman theme, or at least, contending up there with whatever you love. Dare I say it, with Zimmer or John Williams? I don't know. I know already some people could be like, how dare you compare John Murphy to... But it's like, how do we know? How do we know? It might be sick. It might be mid. I don't know. It might be bad, but I doubt it. But ultimately, even though this isn't like major news, this is what I wanted to kind of leave you off with. Imagine movies with a completely different soundtrack. Or imagine cutting out the audio from some of your most favorite scenes in movies or TV shows of all time. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but sometimes I think like reminding people of the obvious, something that they already knew but don't really think about consciously as much all the time when they're watching their most beloved, scenes from movies or TV shows. One of the most moving factors, if you will, of those moments that move us so much is the score. So it is so important to nail that, because imagine if you had like the most moving scene and you just kind of scored it with something just, I don't know, a completely different vibe than what is going on. It can really, really dial up the notch to frickin' 11 with whatever you were going for in the first place with that scene. And, I just wish John Murphy the best of luck, and I hope it's a kick-ass track, and I really hope it is, above all else, Superman. So up next, we need to talk about an update to the DCU Batman rumor I covered last week. Now, if you're not all caught up, essentially, there was a scooper who claimed that a casting call would be sent out to agencies soon for the role of Batman in the DCU. Now, Gunn eventually said on Threads, "Is it true that a new actor is about to be cast for Batman? How are they going?" Keep getting this question, don't know where it's coming from, but wherever it is, it's totally false. We don't have a script yet. So once again, inferring that they're not casting Batman until they have the script for The Brave and the Bold. But some people, as I said, and this is a reaching theory, that with the way that question was phrased and asked, it's not the best way to ask it to Gunn, because sometimes he has been known to reply in the past. If you ask him something a certain way, he might answer it a certain way, but that doesn't mean it's technically not true, if you know what I mean, because you asked him the question in such a certain way that the way he did answer it, if you're still with me here, wasn't false. So basically what people are saying is, well, they didn't ask if the DCU Batman was going to be cast for a project before The Brave and the Bold. This person just simply asked, hey, we've heard that there's a new actor about to be cast for Batman. How are they going? And he's like, well, for The Brave and the Bold, there's no script. So it's totally false. We don't have a script yet. But maybe if he asked, could Batman be cast earlier because he could appear in a previous DCU project, maybe Gunn would have said something different, or maybe Gunn would have said nothing at all, because this is why I found it interesting. Up until then, he took a few days to debunk it. Mostly everyone was asking him about Batman being cast in earlier projects. Now, without repeating everything that I said from my previous video, you could make an argument that Batman/Bruce Wayne could be cast well before Brave and the Bold in the DCU to appear in one of the other projects. You could argue, what if Bruce Wayne or Batman was to make a brief appearance in Waller, or if the DCU Arkham show was to somehow come out before The Brave and the Bold to somewhat, I guess, be this foreshadowing or world building to the eventual Batman and Son movie, if you will. It's totally possible, right? So maybe it was something that was meant to be kept under wraps, but the scooper kind of found out, hey, what if they're trying to cast Batman a little bit earlier? But then again, I guess plans can be subject to change. That's something that has been acknowledged within the DCU recently, with projects moving back a little bit, some projects surprisingly moving forward earlier a little bit. So again, I do want to just give credit just give credence to the idea that Batman could arguably have been, hey, what if we do cast somebody for an earlier DCU project to kind of flesh out that character a little bit before the big movie. But what I will say here is, I don't necessarily think so. I get what people are saying with that theory. And if you still don't know what I mean by that, for example, it's like when Gunn has said, I never said Lex Luthor would be in Superman Legacy. Yet, months and months later, Nicholas Hoult was cast to be in Superman Legacy. And he most recently said to a user on Threads, I never said Supergirl would be in Superman Legacy. And that's true. But that doesn't mean that she won't have a cameo. Now, that's not confirmed, like Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. But do you see what I mean with the way Gunn sometimes answers things? So basically, that is what people's theory is right now, with Batman maybe appearing in an earlier project in the DCU. I would still say never say never. Do you know what I mean? Just never say never. I mean, it is totally possible that certain things like this are in flux, especially with a DCU that is still developing with subtle changes every now and again, as acknowledged by James Gunn recently. But for now, it's a no with this DCU Batman rumor. But we did have the scooper say that on the Batman stuff from earlier this week, I know the cool thing to say is that I made it up. I didn't. I don't make shit up. It came from one of the best sources I've ever had, and someone I know personally. There's more to it. That part I've chosen not to share to keep him covered. But I would love to know what you guys think about that. Do you really think that Batman, even in Bruce Wayne mode, wouldn't appear until potentially 2027 or 2026, whenever they're going to start working on Brave and the Bold? Or do you think it is possible, especially with certain projects being shifted around as acknowledged recently? Could Bruce have a role in Waller? Could he have a role in Lanterns, liaising with a character with regards to this ancient horror? I mean, there is, especially also with recent chatter about Justice League International, could he have a minor role in that? We don't know. But like Gunn is saying no here, but I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me if within the next year or two that something like that would low-key kind of be like, oh, lo and behold, they're going to try and squeeze in Bruce Wayne a little bit earlier. But shout out to DC Film News for debunking this even before Gunn. As I said, DC Film News has some very good sources, and those said sources basically we're saying that this isn't true, and lo and behold, Gunn is also saying it isn't true. So I would leave it on that for now. But speaking of Justice League International stuff, if you will, one thing I wanted to briefly acknowledge in this video, and I did speak about it in my video from the other day. I kind of went in on that before, like I have in previous videos, and how Gunn has actually teased this to the point of where there's nothing truly confirmed out there, but it's getting a bit like eyebrow-raising now. So, not only did he randomly share to his Instagram story the other day, I think I even included it, or maybe it was in my video from Monday, and this doesn't mean a lot. Just because he's sharing a Justice League International comic book cover or whatever it was, it's like, okay. It's the same way as to how a lot of us know Lobo is basically coming in the DCU at some point, right? We're just kind of waiting for that official acknowledgement and announcement of future projects or whatever the heck's going on there. But Gunn, for example, when he first came into office, as I say, one of his first posts on Threads or Blue Sky, whatever it is, was a picture of Lobo. Do you know what I mean? And he keeps doing things like that with the Justice League International. Now, on Threads here, he made a quote. Again, it wasn't really a reply, even though a quote is kind of a reply. This person says, "Hey, James, I have a question. What do you think of Captain Atom? Is it a character that you like or not so much?" And he literally replies with a few covers saying, I've been a big fan of Captain Atom for a long time. So if you pair this with a few other things recently, for example, Sean Gunn, not only did he give away the kind of release date for Creature Commandos, but when he was asked about what he's got going on, he said, I like as much as possible to go up and down the spectrum with movies and do really big projects and really small projects. I'm doing a couple of little ones and then a couple of little indies that I'm going to shoot in the next month or two, and then some bigger stuff with my brother that I can't really quite talk about yet. But then he goes on to say, but then we have Creature Commandos coming out in the fall, which is amazing, and I just cannot wait for an audience to see. So, a little bit of a side note here, Creature Commandos fall. I thought it was possible it could come out a little bit earlier than fall, but it turns out it is later this year, as Gunn said, but I thought maybe later this year could still mean summer. But no, it does seem to be fall, similar to maybe around when the Penguin could be releasing. More on the Penguin in a little bit. But what I find interesting is here when he says, and then some bigger stuff with my brother that I can't really talk about. So after the next few projects, he's going to be getting into some bigger stuff with James Gunn. Now, we know that he's been cast as Maxwell Lord, so this does pair with what we heard about before from the official Maxwell Lord casting news, in how I believe it was Deadline who said it's not clear if Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord will make a cameo in Brother Gunn's Superman Legacy, which will go into production next year, but the character, as I hear it, will be referenced in the background of Legacy, but will appear in future DC projects. How does this tie back to Justice League International? Now, those of you who know that Maxwell Lord is quite ingrained in that storyline, and where I think they're going to be adapting that. So I think after the couple of indie projects that he's doing, and then he gets to this bigger stuff, I think he could be appearing as Maxwell Lord, maybe in Waller, something like that. But most certainly, what else do we have? Booster Gold. And lo and behold, Booster Gold, of course, a part of the Justice League International, but who else? Blue Beetle. Now, of course, what do we know about Shola Marduena? Well, we know that he is returning as Blue Beetle, and most recently we compare it with what he said to Screen Rant. And he says, I know we'll see Blue Beetle again, whether it comes in the form of Blue Beetle 2 or wherever. It's been really great to work alongside James Gunn and Peter Safran, who have graciously folded us into their new universe, even though it wasn't a part of what they came up with. It's an honor. Now, where Blue Beetle heads in the future, I don't know, but I can confidently say that we will see him soon. So, I don't know. I know I'm just kind of connecting dots here, but I really do feel like Sean Gunn will be appearing as Maxwell Lord in one of the next few DCU projects, probably somewhere around Waller. I mean, maybe he could fit in there, but maybe Booster Gold, something like that. Somewhere in there as well, you're going to fit in Shola Marduena's Blue Beetle. I think throughout that, potentially the Justice League International will be set up, and possibly some other characters like Captain Atom, among other, of course, Justice League International characters will be spread throughout these projects. For example, we've got Guy Gardner in Superman Legacy, but Gunn has teased that Guy Gardner will be darted along other projects within the DCU. I do think before we get to the Justice League, I think you're going to get that kind of proto team up of heroes per se. And we know that Batman is featured in the Justice League International, and that's how that could fit in as well. I mean, I'm not saying, even though Gunn has said we don't have a script yet for Brave and the Bold, that the scooper is right and Batman really is being cast, but it would make sense if you kind of want to do something Justice League International around the same time, if not before Brave and the Bold. You could have and cast a Bruce Wayne to liaise with the Justice League International team in the ways that maybe you're seeing on screen right now, before his own movie. But then again, what you have there is you're kind of softly introducing a big character like Batman, where I think from the optics and marketing of the DCU, you kind of want to slap down with Batman first, potentially in his own project. There's all these things that you need to take into account when speculating about this stuff, in my opinion, and I would love to know what you think of that. Do you think that Batman would be cool to see in Justice League International, but do you think that it wouldn't be as cool of an introduction as doing his own movie first, or DCU Arkham series? I don't know, but I do think, as I said in my video the other day, if you've got that far in that video, because it's a long one, the Justice League International, I do think is happening in some way, shape, or form in the early days of Chapter 1 of the DCU. Now, in some Penguin news, I have seen it. A lot of you guys have asked me to cover it. There was set photos and videos of the rubble. There was some kind of explosion on the Penguin set. I mean, it looks like a block of Gotham got completely trashed. But the most interesting thing that I wanted to talk about recently is, as posted here by the Batman Film News on Twitter, they're comparing it to a good old classic look of the Penguin there. It looks like Colin Farrell's Penguin has got even more of the classical look of the Penguin. I mean, he's wearing one of his, big coats that he has been wearing since the Batman movie, to be fair, and it looks like he's got a new one compared to the one that he wore previously in that explosion that got very dusty. But you can see that he's carrying a top hat here. Now, people are saying that he's obviously missing the monocle and the umbrella, but to be fair, we know that he does carry umbrellas, so, it's not like he doesn't really have one. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would say he's missing the monocle if he's going to get that by the end of the series. I don't know if they're going to try and fulfill something like that, but it does look really cool. And what I wanted to bring up is this great artist by the name of Will Gray Art, who we've been covering here on the channel for years. It really reminds me of the mock-up that he did of Colin Farrell, because here you can see that he's wearing a very similar coat to what he's actually wearing on the Penguin set. He's wearing a top hat, just like what he's carrying on the Penguin set. And he's got the monocle. So it's basically crazy to think that the Penguin series has almost fulfilled this fan art here on screen. And I don't know, again, if they're going to go as far as maybe getting some injury to get a monocle. That is very possible. Maybe a bit expected, maybe too expected. But I'd still just be happy with the fact that, okay, yeah, I mean, he's wearing one of his coats that we have seen before. This isn't really new, but it's a bit more of like, you got the black fur there around the neck rather than some of the other colors that he's had. But the fact that he's wearing the top hat, absolutely remarkable. Also, notice how there's snow in the background there of the Penguin, which isn't really surprising. We know that the Penguin takes place a week after the Batman movie, with Oz still standing in Falcone's office, or whatever Colin Farrell teased to us at the time. So that's still November after the Batman movie ends. That is basically winterish, and we know that like winter ends somewhere around the end of March. So this is why I think we could be getting the Batman Part 2 in winter, which I know a lot of fans want. They want a kind of snowy Gotham. You're seeing snow here. I don't think there's going to be a big time jump from the Penguin series to the Batman Part 2 either. I think it's going to be set maybe a few weeks after that to a month or so after that. But again, that's still fine, because even if the Batman Part 2 had like a 2-month time jump, it would still be hopefully looking like that around where Oz is. You can see some snow in the background. So we're going to have to wait and see. But what I wanted to speak about with regards to Penguin is I get asked quite a lot, when are we going to get a trailer? When do you think that could be happening? And the same with Joker 2. The same with Joker 2, because we're at that point of the year, for example, when we're going to get like a Deadpool 3 trailer very soon. Variety has done a whole article about this recently, saying Super Bowl movie trailers, Deadpool 3, Wicked, and A Quiet Place prequel spots poised to dominate the big game. Now, unfortunately, if you're looking for a Joker 2 trailer around about this point for that game on February 11th, from where they say more than 100 million people are expected to tune in, that's why they drop these trailers, you're not going to get Warner Brothers, Netflix, Sony, or anything like that. So anyone expecting a Joker 2 trailer for the game on the 11th, it's not going to happen. I mean, obviously not if Warner Brothers aren't turning up, but some people thought that maybe it could, because people, like myself, are expecting a Joker 2 trailer kind of any week or month now. I mean, I know the latter is quite broad to say, but, you know, maybe if not the 11th, where there could have been quite a cool opportunity for a first teaser, some people are expecting maybe Todd Phillips to chuck up on Instagram the tiniest little teaser on Valentine's Day. Last Valentine's Day, I can't believe it. We got this photo. That feels like yesterday to me. That is absolutely nuts, but I am expecting low-key maybe something on Valentine's Day from Todd Phillips, and I'm telling you, they've got so much time left to finish this movie. They have easily something to show us, but are they going to do it, or aren't they? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But back to the Penguin here. That could be the kind of thing that Warner Brothers decides to just share on social media, on their YouTube channel, on the Max channel, or something like that, another teaser. But they could possibly wait till CinemaCon. So that kind of applies to both Joker 2 and the Penguin. CinemaCon, of course, is in April. I believe it's April 9th. But it's a bit of a situation of not only could we still get a Joker teaser on Valentine's Day in just a week from when you're seeing this video, but also maybe a more grander trailer at CinemaCon. Same for the Penguin. We could get a teaser any day now, any week now on just the Max channel. They might just, promote that over social media a little bit, but you could also maybe get a bit of a preview at CinemaCon as well. So no matter what, as I keep saying, I'm expecting something at any point from both of these projects. I'm itching to see something in motion rather than just a photograph of Joker 2. We've obviously seen a little bit of footage for Penguin, but I know that there's been press people who saw more about Penguin at the 2024 Max slate reveal, and where they said Kristen Milioti, Sophia Falcone was just absolutely savage, whatever they said. But I don't know, a little bit of a ramble about that. Obviously, stay subscribed to the channel, because I will be doing a reaction and a breakdown as soon as those things drop. I don't care what time it is, I will be doing it. But very, 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 very eager to see something. And it could be, I know I keep saying it, it's a bit kind of a broad scope to say it, but any day or week now, I'm waiting for something. And that applies to you as well, the Batman Part 2, because I'm not obviously expecting footage for the Batman Part 2 when it hasn't even entered properly pre-production just yet, as far as we know. But I'm talking like a proper development. Okay, the script's been handed in. We're now going full into pre-production and looking at a tentative filming date for like June, July, something like that. We need that update. We kind of needed it like 2 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, maybe longer ago. And lastly, to end off this video, this isn't really news, but I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of artists who have done some amazing work at concepts of Millie Alcock as Supergirl. Now, I know some people are struggling to see the vision there. I mean, I personally am over the moon. Some of you really wanted Meg Donnelly, but I've seen some comments saying, what? I don't like this at all. But here you can see, this one's from Linnea. I probably butchered the name. And look how good this concept is of Millie Alcock. And they've also done another version that's a bit more saturated in the suit, as well as colorizing the House of L symbol there. But I think that's absolutely remarkable, and I would love a look like this for Woman of Tomorrow, of course, similar to that of the comic book. But then we also have Felipe, I probably butchered that name as well, Ilart. on Instagram here with another concept of Supergirl. Absolutely fantastic. It's just incredible. Absolutely breathtaking. This artwork. And again, I hope it maybe just maybe gives some people some reassurance. I mean, it's weird to say that because, you know, who knows really what Millie Alcock's going to look like, but they've captured her likeness perfectly here. That is the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow suit by both artists. So, I mean, whether she grows her hair out a little bit longer like Felipe's version or like in the first image by Linnea, I'm down for both. I think she would look pretty cool with, you know, around the shoulder length hair, but I know in Woman of Tomorrow it does flow a little bit longer, but I think these are amazing. Just wanted to share them. Absolutely fantastic. Let me know what you guys think of it. Have you come on board a little bit more with regards to Millie Alcock? If you were kind of against it, let me know. And if you're already also with Millie Alcock, does this just kind of hype you up even more? But that's everything from me today, ladies and gentlemen. Would really appreciate all of your thoughts, all of your theories, all of your speculation, as always with all of the little news tidbits and stuff that we do here. Leave this video a like if you did get this far. Would really appreciate that. Double check about subscribing because you might think you're subscribed, but it just turns out that YouTube is recommending me to you and you might not be subscribed. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.